Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Cycle on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. Now, quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has expressed condolences to families affected by the abduction of pupils and teachers in Urire local government area of Oyo State, saying no child should ever be taken from the safety of a classroom. The president stated that he shares in the pain and anxiety of affected families following the attack on communities in Isele and Yawota, which has triggered nationwide concern over school security. Tinubu also commiserated with the family of a teacher killed during the attack, Ms. Oyedokun, widow of Michael Oyedokun, who was beheaded by the bandits in Oyo State, describing her as a victim whose sacrifice would not be forgotten. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has assured Nigerians of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's commitment to making the country safe for all citizens, saying Nigeria will soon overcome its security challenges. Moving on now, the First Lady said this in Ado-Ekiti during her engagement with Ekiti State traditional rulers as part of her one working visit to the state. She described the cases of kidnappings, banditry, and killing country as disheartening, said a lot of efforts were ongoing to further secure the country and stamp out criminality, but these efforts could not be divulged publicly. Residents of Borno State have expressed concern over the federal government's silence since the abduction of 42 primary and junior secondary school students in Musa community, Askira Uba local government area of the state. Speaking in an interview, chairman of the Network of Civil Society Organizations in the state, Abubakar Suleiman, said the federal government is not fair to victims of both incidents. The residents noted that the government had prioritized a similar incident in Oyo State where pupils and teachers were kidnapped, while downplaying the abduction in the state. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has commended the Nigerian Navy for eradicating piracy in Nigeria's waters and significantly reducing crude oil theft. Speaking at the Nigerian Navy International Fleet Review in Lagos as part of the service's 70th anniversary celebrations, Tinubu said the Navy's surveillance and rapid response operations have strengthened maritime security and supported economic growth. The event also featured the commissioning of 3 naval vessels, NMS Mambila, NMS Kurara, and NMS Olabiri, as the president reaffirmed the Navy's role in safeguarding the nation's maritime environment and supporting internal security operations. Over now to the Nigerian Labour Congress. NLC has dismissed a proposal of 100,000 naira as minimum wage by the Nigerian Governors Forum, insisting that a realistic living wage under the current economic conditions should be as high as 1 million naira. The Congress spokesperson Benson Upa stated this in an interview following comments by the Nigerian Governors Forum chairman and Governor of Kwara State, Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, who disclosed that governors were considering a new national minimum wage of 100,000 naira. The Federal Workers Forum has threatened to mobilize federal workers for an indefinite nationwide strike over rising insecurity in the country and unresolved wage issues. The forum, in a communique issued after an online meeting, reprimanded the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress for not rising to the occasion and providing leadership in this regard. The communique is signed by its national coordinator, Emelize, and Secretary Ayo Ogundele. The forum accused the federal government of exploiting workers and failing to guarantee their safety. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has taken responsibility for the continued presence of cattle on major roads and streets across Abuja, admitting that the situation remains a concern despite efforts to improve the capital city. Speaking during the monthly media briefing in Abuja, Wike expressed regret over the development and assured residents that the administration remains committed to addressing it. He also highlighted ongoing infrastructure projects across the territory, noting that development is in race. The Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, has cautioned content creators, social media users, and members of the public against the indiscriminate recording and circulation of police-related videos, warning that such actions could undermine security operations and demoralize officers. Speaking during an interactive session within Abuja, the Inspector General of Police expressed concern over what he described as a growing trend of recording police officers during routine and sensitive operations and posting such content online without proper context. The Police Service Commission has debunked a police recruitment list circulating on social media, describing it as fake and urging members of the public to disregard it. The head of Protocol and Public Affairs Police Service Commission, Dorothy Kalu, stated this in a statement, noting that the Commission wishes to state categorically that no such shortlisted has been released. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has tasked electoral officers and assistant electoral officers in Osun State with aggressive grassroots voter education and deliberate inclusivity measures as the Commission ramps up preparations for the August 15, 2026 Ogun State governorship election. At a high-level joint implementation meeting of the Voter Education and Publicity and Gender and Inclusivity Department held in Osogbo, the Commission's leadership declared that election is a process and not an event, and warned that voter apathy remains a critical threat to electoral participation in Nigeria. Still on the news, Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed has dismissed reports linking him to a proposed presidential ticket involving former President Goodluck Jonathan and a fraction of the People's Democratic Party ahead of the 2027 general election. The governor's reaction followed claims circulating on social media that he was being considered as Jonathan's running mate. After the former president emerged as the presidential candidate of PDP faction led by Kabiru Turaki, Jonathan was adopted as the fraction's presidential flag bearer during a special national convention held in Abuja. Although he did not attend the event, his certificate of return was received on his behalf by a federal lawmaker from Bayelsa State, Fred Agibi. The Democratic Leadership Alliance, DLA, has rejected allegations by former presidential aspirant Abisayo Modupe describing claims of wrongful exclusion from its presidential screening exercise as false and misleading. The party said Modupe was not the only aspirant in the race, noting that other aspirants participated in the screening process and those who met the requirements were cleared in line with established guidelines. The party maintained that while Modupe took part in the screening exercise, she was not cleared based on the outcome of the process, stressing that no other aspirant has questioned the credibility of the exercise. The Nigerian Democratic Congress has distanced itself from various results of its recently concluded nationwide primary circulating on social media, insisting that only party's National Executive Council is authorized to announce the outcome of the exercise. In a statement issued in Abuja, the party National Publicity Secretary, OSA Director, announced that a NEC meeting had been summoned in Abuja to deliberate on the primaries and other matters arising from the exercise next week. The party also warned that the results being shared in the media should be disregarded, stressing that the official outcome of primaries conducted across the country on May 28th and 29th remains under the custody of NEC. The Labour Party has dismissed allegations of fraud and political sabotage leveled against it by disqualified presidential aspirant Peter Agada, who is demanding a refund of 150 million naira paid to the party for its 2027 presidential nomination bid. The petition, jointly signed by the Council President Temilade Greg and Secretary Blessing Eleokwe, alleged that the party obtained 150 million naira from Agada, comprising 50 million naira for expression of interest and nomination forms, and another 100 million naira in contribution towards the party's national convention and related activities. Agada's demand was conveyed through a petition issued in Abuja by his Presidential Campaign Council, following his exclusion from the party's presidential primary conducted on May 30th. Widows of fallen military personnel in Zamfara State have appealed for increased support from government and well-meaning individuals to help ease the challenges faced by their families. The chairperson of the Military Widows Association in Zamfara State, Majida Mohammed, made the appeal while speaking with journalists in Gusau, the state capital, following recent assistance provided by the Zamfara State government. Sadatu that report will be brought in our subsequent bulletin. You are watching the live broadcast of News Cycle. News Cycle continues after this weather forecast, plus business, foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
Glad you could join us. After the widespread downpour that affected many parts of the country, temperatures are expected to stay on the cool side, especially across areas that experience prolonged rainfall. Looking ahead to Tuesday, we're expecting a relatively calm start to the day, as much of the atmospheric energy that fueled the recent storm has been exhausted, which should limit weather activities during the morning hours. That said, there's still a chance of isolated thunderstorms over parts of Borno, Adamawa, and Taraba State. These areas typically serve as the gateway for many of the storm systems that move into the country. So a few thunderstorms cannot be ruled out. As we head into the afternoon and evening hours, the atmosphere is expected to regain some of its energy, allowing rain chances to increase once again across many parts of the country. However, residents of Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi, Kwara, parts of Niger and Oyo State can expect mainly partly cloudy skies with occasional sunny spells and little to no chance of significant rain. And that's your weather for Tuesday. Be weather ready and stay safe. I am Akami Samarda.
You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is News Cycle on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has launched the Nigeria Payment System Vision, PSV 2028, a new roadmap aimed at expanding financial inclusion to 95% of the adult population, deepening digital payments and positioning Nigeria as Africa's leading payment hub. Speaking at the launch of the initiative in Abuja, CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso described PSV 2028 as a strategic blueprint designed to transform how Nigerians transact, save, invest, and participate in digital economy over the next 3 years. Cardoso said the initiative is expected to bring an estimated 50 million additional Nigerians into the formal financial system by 2028, while strengthening payment infrastructure, reducing cash dependency, and supporting economic growth. In another development, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has absorbed 1.945 trillion naira from the financial system through its May 29, 2026 open market operations auction, as a move to sterilize excess liquidity ahead of expected 3.35 trillion naira inflow from maturing OMO and Treasury bill securities. The latest open market operations auction result shows that investors submitted bids worth 1.952 trillion naira against a combined offer size of 400 billion naira, underscoring strong demand for short-term government securities. And the auction comes just 1 week after the Apex Bank conducted a much larger open market operation sale on May 21st, where it allotted 3.49 trillion naira against subscriptions of 3.48 trillion naira, bringing total open market operations liquidity mop-ups within 8 days to 5.42 trillion naira. The Central Bank of Nigeria says bad loans in the banking sector rose to 8.08% in January 2026, exceeding the regulatory benchmark of 5% following the withdrawal of regulatory forbearance on certain credit exposures. The Apex Bank's January 2026 economic report shows that the industry's non-performing loans ratio increased from 7.51% in December 2025, reflecting a further decline in asset quality across the banking sector. Now, the Apex Bank attributed the rise to reclassification of loans after ending forbearance measures, though it maintained that the banking industry remains resilient despite the increase in impaired loans. On the foreign scene now, Guinea has begun counting votes from its legislative and municipal elections, a key step in the country's transition to civilian rule following the 2021 military coup. More than 7 million voters were eligible to elect 147 members of parliament, although turnout was reportedly low in parts of the capital, Conakry, and the city of Lebe. The polls took place amid criticisms from opposition groups who accused the government of restricting political space after the suspension of major opposition parties and the arrest of several critics of President Mamadi Doumbouya. Meanwhile, Ethiopians have gone to the polls in parliamentary elections, expected to hand Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed his Prosperity Party another commanding victory. The vote comes amid ongoing security challenges in parts of the country, but officials say the exercise is proceeding as scheduled. Over now to Mukhtar Kasim's report.
Ethiopians queued at polling stations across the capital, Addis Ababa, as voting commenced in the country's parliamentary elections. Long lines formed early in several districts, with voters turning out to cast their ballot in an election widely expected to return Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and his Prosperity Party to power. Abiy, who had led the East African nation since 2018, says the next 5 years will be a period of historic transformation for Ethiopia. The ruling party entered the election as the overwhelming favorite after securing a dominant victory in the last national poll. However, opposition groups and analysts have raised concerns about the competitiveness of the election, citing restrictions on political rivals and ongoing conflict in parts of the country. Voting is not taking place in the northern Tigray region, where tensions persist years after a devastating civil war. Security concerns also remain in the Oromia and Amhara region, where armed insurgencies continue despite government efforts to restore stability. Despite the challenges, Ethiopia's economy remains one of Africa's fastest growing, driven by infrastructure development and rising export. Observers from the African Union and the regional bloc, IGAD, are monitoring the vote, with official results expected on June 11th. Mukhtar Kasim, Global TV News.
In sports stories now, in the absence of the colorful Durbar celebration that traditionally define Eid festivities in Kano, the Emir of Kano State, Alhaji Aminu Ardo Bayero, has turned to another cherished aspect of Hausa cultural heritage to entertain residents and preserve tradition. As part of this year's Eid-el-Kabir celebrations, the Emir hosted a traditional Dambe competition at his palace, attracting participants and spectators from across the state. Global TV correspondent Idris Jibrin tells us more.
For centuries, Dambe has occupied a special place in the cultural life of the Hausa people. Originally practiced by local butchers and hunters as a test of strength, courage, and endurance, The traditional combat sport has evolved into one of northern Nigeria's most celebrated cultural attractions. This year, the Emir of Kano, Alhaji Amina Ado Bayero, organized the traditional wrestling contest as an alternative platform to sustain the rich cultural heritage associated with Salah celebrations. Hundreds of spectators stormed the Emir's palace to witness the thrilling contest as fighters from different communities displayed remarkable skill, strength, and determination. For the Emirate, the event provided an opportunity to reconnect with the people's cultural roots and enjoy a key aspect of Hausa tradition during the festive season.
Cikin amana da aminci duk wanda ya sallah duk wanda ya azumi ya sa cikin addu'a Allah ya kawo mana karshen wannan jarabawa yace ya ji dadi da aka yi wannan al'amari kuma mai martaba yace ya ji dariya a cikin zuciyarsa mun san mai martaba baya dariya a fili.
Beyond entertainment, Dambe represent values deeply rooted in the Hausa culture: bravery, discipline, respect, and communal unity. It has for long served as an avenue for social interaction and cultural transmission from one generation to another. The Emir's initiative is therefore seen not only as a celebration of Salah, but also as a deliberate effort to preserve an important aspect of Kano's cultural heritage. While many residents continue to look forward to the return of the world-renewed Durbar, this year's Dambe competition has demonstrated the resilience of Kano's cultural tradition and the determination of traditional institutions to keep them alive. For the Hausa people, Salah remains more than a religious celebration. It is also a time to showcase customs, strength, community bond, and celebrate a heritage that has endured for generations. From Kano, Idris Jibrin, Global Television News.
Moving on to the Middle Belt Tigers were crowned champions of the inaugural Nigeria Super League after defending Southern Sharks by 6 runs in the thrilling final at the TBS Oval after almost 2 weeks of exhilarating cricket action in Lagos. The championship clash brought the curtain down on an exciting maiden edition of the Nigerian Super League with 20 matches played, showcasing elite talent, fierce competition and the continued growth of cricket in Nigeria. Led by Yellow Green's wicket-keeper Suleiman Ransawe, the Tigers won the toss and elected to bat, posting a competitive 104/5 in their allotted 10 overs. Players of the Nigerian women's national football team are expected to begin arriving in camp in Ekene, Ogun State, ahead of their international friendly matches against Senegal women's national football team as preparations intensify for the 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations. Head coach Justine Madugu has named a 23-player squad for the double-header featuring captain Rashidat Achibade, goalkeeper Chiamaka Unadozie, and veteran striker Azizat Oshola. Midfielder Ngozi Okobi retained her place in the squad after her recent return, while towards Francisca Odega and Gift Monday were also included. Now that's it on News Cycle. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @GlobalTVNG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching.